Alright guys, welcome to the channel. This is a new channel for me, and this will be my first video on this channel. And it is about the Sig P211 GTO. Okay, first shot. Okay, yeah, that's taking me a minute to get my head around. So, I wanted to vlog about this because this is kind of a big purchase for me. I've always wanted a 2011, but I've always felt like they were too expensive. So, you know, I've been shooting for probably almost 20 years. A long time ago, I used to shoot a lot of like IDPA, USPSA, and I've shot Glocks, M&Ps, lots of Springfields. Most of my guns now are Springfields. I've got the Echelon, some Hellcats, XDM Elite. I've had a few, you know, different AR-15 platforms, AKV-9, etc. So I've been shooting for a long time, but I could never justify the cost of a 2011. I could never justify the cost of a gun that cost more than, you know, like a Glock or an Echelon. Because, you know, it's funny because you can make not any, but you can make most guns run really fast with, you know, just lots of dry fire, light enough trigger, and now, you know, you've got all these comps and everything. It's actually my first full-size comped gun. I've got a Hellcat Pro comp. That's more my wife's, so I've only shot it once. So, you know, I've always been eyeing 2011s, but when they started getting really, you know, I saw people shooting 2011s when I was shooting USPSA, but back then they were like STIs, and they were crazy expensive, and they never were reliable. Like, I would be shooting with people in matches and they would have like mag issues, and you'd see them like in between stages, like brushing out their mags and all this crap. And then I was just like, because when I buy a pistol, you know, 9mm pistols, this is my favorite platform to shoot. And when I buy a pistol, it has to be like combat ready. Like my pistols are, they're fun to shoot, but they're tools. So, you know, they need to function as like duty guns for me, or carry guns, or home defense guns. So, you know, I never really considered 2011s until about 5 years ago with the popularity of like the staccatos. But I would never even consider getting a staccato, because for the comped version, the XC, it's a lot. It's as much as like a used motorcycle or a used car. And there's just no way, you know, I'm just like an average guy. I've got kids, I've got a wife, I've got I've got bills. You know, there's no way I'm spending that kind of money on a pistol when it's not really going to give me that kind of return. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to make me twice as fast as shooting my echelon. But then I started seeing, you know, all the cheaper 2011s coming out, like the Springfield Prodigy. There's like the Mac 9. You know, I'm sure I'm missing a bunch, but they were like all like around like $1,000. And those seemed more doable. But again, you know, I'm consuming tons of YouTube content, and reliability always seems to be a concern. And it always seems to stem from 2011 magazines. People, like, you see people like talking about tuning their magazines, trying to find a magazine brand that works with a specific gun, and changing out the recoil springs and blah, 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 blah. I was still apprehensive about jumping into that platform. So then Sig announced the P211. And for one, I love the aesthetics. I love the way it looks. Like, I like that it doesn't look like a traditional 2011. It looks like, I don't even know Sig guns. I've never liked Sig. I've shot some of their striker fire guns, and I didn't care for the triggers. Like the P365, I thought that gun has like way too much recoil for what it is compared to my Hellcats. And then I think the 226s or whatever the Army uses, they have like a really tall bore axis. So I wouldn't even bother with those. But when they announced this thing, I was like, it looks amazing. And I like the comp on it. I like the optic mounting footprint, the grip. I think they like knocked it out of the park with this. And then the fact that it uses 320 mags means that you don't have to worry about those reliability issues with 2011 mags. And so again, I'm consuming a ton of YouTube content, and you see guys running 5,000 rounds through these things without cleaning them. And so I was pretty hopeful. So I decided to pull the trigger, no pun intended. I feel like, you know, for the money, it's not as affordable as like a Prodigy, but it's not nearly as expensive as a Staccato XC. It's right in between. I figured this might be what gives me like a good return on my investment. And let's see, today I shot 440 rounds, 400 rounds of 115 grain, and then 40 rounds of the Federal HST. I think it's 124 grain, but I don't remember. So just got it sighted in, and I'm gonna put maybe another 300 or so rounds through it. So yeah, we're just gonna put some more rounds to it today and see how it goes. And then the first time I came out on Thursday, I shot 320 rounds. So I'm up to 760 rounds. And I've had one stoppage. And it was with the Federal HST, and that was the first day with the gun. Today I had no stoppages. So I would already consider this gun combat ready. I would trust this on my nightstand. Like, I don't, you know, it just runs. There's not going to be any issues with the mags. And being that it's my first 2011, I didn't really know what to expect, you know, compared to all the guns I've shot in the past. But so let me backtrack. The reason why I like 9mm pistols is because for me, they've always been the hardest platform to master. Like when you're shooting a pistol, you know, when it comes to your grip and your stance and your sight picture, there's a lot of nuance to shooting a pistol. And so it's always been my favorite platform because it's something that you constantly have to work on to do well. Shooting a 2011, I didn't really know what to expect, but obviously it's softer shooting than any of my striker fired guns. But now that I'm like starting to get used to the recoil impulse and the grip, it's like it almost shoots as fast as a rifle. You know, it's not quite as fast as something like a 22 pistol, but it almost shoots as fast as like a rifle or a PCC. Which is, it's crazy because even with this red dot, this is the Romeo X Sig Lock, it's got a small window compared to, you know, like I've got a 507 comp on my Echelon. It's got a small window, but you know, once you figure out your grip and the recoil impulse, the window doesn't move. Like you can track the dot in the window the entire time you're shooting. Like you never have to worry about like bringing the window back down and finding the dot again. Like the dot just kind of like stays in that small window and the gun just shoots so soft and flat. And it's funny because, you know, normally like when you're shooting, like after you shoot enough rounds, your grip will start to break a little bit and you'll have to readjust. Like this gun is so soft to shoot. This gun is awesome. So yeah, I think for my first 2011, I think it was a good buy. I think it's gonna hold its value because for me, it's reliable, feels great in the hand. I had some concerns about it being like all metal because normally I tweak my trigger guard and my grip a little bit with like a Dremel tool, but it doesn't really have any pain points. Like I've had to build up some calluses, but it doesn't really have any like obvious pain points to where I'm gonna get like weird like calluses on my knuckles like you used to with Glocks. For the spring, so the gun is bone stock. All I've done is polish the feed ramp. I'm running the 8-pound spring. I tried a few rounds through the 10-pound spring and I didn't like how snappy it was. So I put the 8-pound spring back in, oiled it up. And like I said, I polished the feed ramp and I've just been dry firing. I've been dry firing it about an hour a night, which is gonna help it break in. But this gun has just been basically flawless and it shoots so flat. Trigger is measuring it right at 3 pounds, which is fine. It's got the Series 80s trigger, so it's drop safe. I'm not going to touch that. Like I said, it's going to be a HD gun, duty gun, combat gun, self-defense. Like I'm not going to mess with any of the safeties. The trigger to me, I mean, it's the best trigger of any gun I own. So yeah, basically, if you're like me, and you know, you're not super wealthy, but you want a 2011 that's not going to be a range toy or a shelf queen or a comp gun, like if you need to depend on it, I would say this is a good buy. With the 320 mags, it's going to be reliable. It has been for me. You just have to keep in mind, if you're like me and you've never shot a 2011 before or a 1911, coming from a striker fire gun, you want to give yourself a few hours to get used to the controls, because you have to get used to using a safety. You know, if you shoot rifle, using a safety won't be anything new. And then you'll want to do your dry fire practice so you can train keeping your thumbs off the slide. Like when you disengage the safety, you know, you want to leave a little bit of a gap, like a millimeter between your thumb and the slide. And then on your offhand thumb, you know, you just want to make sure you're not riding the slide, because anything touching the slide is going to slow it down and cause malfunctions. And this gun has just been perfect. Yeah, and it's the problem that it's going to present now is that it's like, now that I'm getting used to this platform, it's hard to go back and forth between this and my plastic guns. So that's going to create some problems for me in the future, I think, as far as my backup guns. Yeah, guys, I think that's going to do it for my first 2011 most expensive gun I've ever purchased. I think I'm pretty satisfied with it. On the first day I was shooting, I was kind of iffy, but I had to give myself enough time to get used to the recoil and just how it shoots and how the trigger feels. But this thing is just, it's such a pleasure to shoot. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for this one. If you have any questions or complaints, leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching.